You know Graybar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Graybar does that.
Welcome into the latest episode of the Show Before the Show podcast, the official podcast of minor league baseball. It is a good day to talk about some fun MILB stuff, along with Slammin' Sammy Dykstra and Big Basher Benjamin Hill in New York City. My name is Tyler Mon. What's going on, guys?
Wait. What?
Yeah, what is your nickname?
Yeah, you can't just give us.
I can't give myself a nickname. I'm not Charlie Blackmon here.
Yeah,
Tyler Moonshot Mon. I don't know. What do you want? I'm trying to think of slugging stuff here, and the T for some reason is not coming. Thundering Tyler Mon.
Have something. Ooh, thundering is kind of cool. Except it's like a th sound and a tuh follows. But whatever, we can let it slide.
Yeah, it's not a baseball term. I kind of like tumultuous Tyler Mon. Just because.
And accurate for all of my energy in life. Well, let's get started on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up for you today as we get closer and closer to pitchers and catchers reporting to spring training with the season on the horizon, as crazy as that is. One selfish bit of excitement. We're recording this on Thursday, February 9th. World Baseball Classic rosters will be announced tonight. We'll talk about prospects on WBC squads coming up next week, but that'll be tonight on MLB Network. So by the time you're hearing this, it's already aired, and then this is a pointless commentary for you. But you can go to MLB.com, check out all the rosters, get set for the Classic, which kicks off on March 8th in Taichung, Taiwan. And let's get started on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. We're going to kick things off. We got a couple interviews coming up for you this week, but we're going to kick things off with a really cool conversation that Ben got started in the newsletter, which is about keeping score at minor league baseball games. And Ben, you said this generated a whole lot of response from people, which this is always one of my favorite kinds of conversations about if people keep score, how people keep score. There are so many different styles and strategies and all that type of thing. Tell us about what the response was like to this.
Yeah, it was a great response. The Ben's Biz Beat newsletter. Please subscribe if you haven't. There's a little newsletter tab on MILB.com. Also, Twitter at Ben's Biz in my profile, in my bio. I have the link to subscribe. And, I try to ask a question every week, a question of minor concern. And I solicit from readers questions to ask as well, and this was one of those that a reader suggested I ask, and it was, do you keep score at minor league games? And so this week's newsletter, dropping later today, Thursday, February 9th, I actually dedicated to just one man's response, because he told a whole story, beginning with his grandfather in the late 50s and, moving to the present day. And usually I don't have like a 400-word response in the newsletter, but I was like, this is so good, I'm just going to do it. And then next week I'll have a bunch of more smaller, bite-sized responses. So I was really surprised. Obviously, keeping score is not the most common thing, but I think like a lot of things, the people who do keep score are really into it, and got a lot of great responses from people, minor league baseball fans, explaining, not just saying, yes, I keep score, but explaining why and, what it means to them. And, with minor league baseball keeping score, I think there's the fun aspect of it is that you can look back on those. I mean, it's fun to look back on anything you keep score, but when you keep score in a major league game, those guys are already in the majors. And it might be cool to be like, oh yeah, that was, Mike Trout's rookie year or whatever the case may be. But in the minors, there's an extra layer of being like, oh, wow. You might forget, but like, wow, Coco Crisp was in this Eastern League game in 2002 that I happened to attend, and like those little things. So I hope people enjoy that in the newsletter. And I was curious. I mean, Tyler, for you, it's a whole different thing as a broadcaster, but I was curious with your guys. And no one really taught me how to keep score, but I was just such a baseball fan. I started doing it in college, maybe and at that point I knew baseball well enough just to pick it up. And I used to keep score at every game I attended. And as, the years have gone by, I've go to less games, at least as a fan. and often try to be social. And I do it less now because sometimes it's just, you're trying to, get something to eat. You're trying to talk to people and it can be tough. Also, I have kind of compulsive tendencies and I'm not good at just, marking like wasn't watching. I'll spend all this time, trying to reconstruct it and, tabulate the pitching lines as soon as a guy's out of the game. And I need to calm down a little bit. But yeah, curious about you guys and like, what your experience is with keeping score or, when you first learned.
Yeah, Tyler, you start first because you're, as a broadcaster, this is a key part of the job, right?
Yeah, it is, which is a little crazy. I had started keeping score back, like middle school, high school, some, nerdy age. I still actually have the Colorado Rockies used to do really cool giveaways back in the day. And they gave away a clipboard for a game once, which had instructions on the clipboard of how to keep score. And I think that's how I learned, was just like reading off that clipboard. My dad kind of helped me out and I learned through various means, but I do remember that playing like a big role and like, oh, this is really cool. This is sort of how I understand how to do these things going forward. Now, yeah, it's definitely a totally different thing as a broadcaster, because you do want to have the ability to look back 4 innings ago, this guy's at bat, what happened, what was the situation, then all of that. And so it's evolved now. I do it thanks to Dave Sims, who's one of the broadcasters with the Seattle Mariners. I remember listening to an interview with him years ago about how he color codes his scorecards for. I was
going to bring that up. You see these broadcasters with like a little cup or whatever of all these different colored markers.
That is me now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very much that way. So I've got like a color for a strikeout, for a walk, for an error, for a hit by pitch, an outstanding play that I want to highlight and go back to later on. So yeah, it's very much a multi-layered thing now. But it's great. I love keeping score, and it does keep you so much more engaged in the game too. And yeah, I do remember a lot of times, prior to getting into broadcasting, where I thought like, oh yeah, I'm just going to write WW for wasn't watching here. But I'm the same way, Ben. Now, if I miss something, I have to go back and like restructure what happened in the inning and reconstruct it, almost like you're an official scorer trying to figure out like, all right, would this have been a hit or an error? Would this be a run that's earned or unearned? I am looking at the very first professional baseball game that I scored as a broadcaster, which was April 9th, 2009, the Wilmington Blue Rocks against the Myrtle Beach Pelicans. And in that game, Mike Moustakas started for Wilmington and was at third base and batted third. There are a few other guys who made the big leagues from that team, but Mike Moustakas is definitely the one who stands out. And on the other side, for Myrtle Beach, Freddie Freeman and Jason Hayward hit back-to-back in that lineup. Jason Hayward hit third, Freddie Freeman hit cleanup. And there were a lot of good guys on that team that I remember from their days as young guys who then made the big leagues. Craig Kimbrell pitched in that game. Craig Kimbrell, I remember, really struggled that first season that we had him in Myrtle Beach, and then he came back through the next year and just blew through high A on the way to the majors. But yeah, that was the first game that I ever scored as a professional broadcaster. And I remember I just had like a store-bought scorebook. And now, like thanks to former Altoona Curve radio guy Mike Passanisi, I've got like, pages that Mike actually made with the things that he likes while keeping score of games. And so I have my own scorebooks made at like a FedEx office, from this PDF that Mike sent me. So that's pretty cool.
How many innings does it have?
It's got 15, I think, which nowadays is like, the rarity of using 15 innings in a scorebook anymore.
Yeah, right. 12
that never happens. Yeah. I did multiple 20 or 20 plus inning games when I was a broadcaster in the minor leagues, and now like I'll never see a 15 plus inning game again, probably. Sam, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I try to keep score. Generally, I'm usually that guy in the press box who just uses the ones that they give you, with like the pre-printed out lineups on them, which are not very helpful. I know many of you listening have not been in a press box. They don't have like the diamond made out on them. It's just a blank space. So you have to kind of make it yourself to say a guy finished at second base. It's more or less more for me to just keep track of those special plays that you're talking about. Like, because I'm not usually broadcasting. I did it once or twice last year, but and in those instances, I'm trying to keep score as much as I can. But if I'm writing the game, I need to remember, okay, this is what happened on this double, so I'll put a little star next to it, or be like, this is where the important thing happened. I think game day has kind of changed scorekeeping forever, because you can just as easily go back to the box score. It's not just a box score. It's exactly what happened. It was a double to left center. It was a bunt single. It was whatever. That is so much easier to just refer to now, and you have it in your pocket. It's not something I do, but I think for fans, I think that's kind of changed that conversation. But also technology has changed it another way, because I was watching, going to some games last year and seeing some broadcasters use a scorekeeping app.
Yeah.
Where you just say it was a double to right center and it'll automatically file it. And it seems like it takes a little bit longer, but like the more you get used to it, it's just 2 clicks and you're done. And then it all files there, and then you can save it on your iPad or your laptop or whatever. And it just seems so efficient. And I love that that's a mixture of the two, right? Like the idea of scorekeeping still existing and not just going off game day is still out there, but we have technology at our fingertips. We might as well use it.
I will say there is a different style of scorekeeping that I think it was James Smythe, who I worked with in the minors, who is now a statistician with the Yes Network. If you ever watch a Yankees game on Yes, Paul O'Neill and Michael Kay and all those guys will just drop the name James, like, oh, James gave us this. That's James Smythe. And James is one of the smartest and most dedicated guys that I've ever worked with. But James had a way, it was almost like a shorthand version of keeping score. And I had no idea what it was like looking at the Rosetta Stone to me. Like I had no idea what he was doing. It was like, oh, a single is like I'll just draw like a horizontal line from left to right. And then if you double, well, that's like you put a cross, and like there was something, I have no clue what he was doing. With me, it's just like you draw the little diamond. When a guy scores, I color it in. It's like it's like a preschool activity, especially with a lot of colors. It's very important for my puny brain. I find it really tactile and fun.
Yeah, I will say I think it's my own style, and I have no idea where I picked this up. But if it's a double, I'll put like the 2 lines going to second base, but I'll circle them.
Oh, interesting.
Which is probably not what you're supposed to do. So if like that guy scores, it gets a little confusing because you're like, there's a bubble here, but it's also colored in.
But I kind of like that because it links, like, these two things happened in the same moment.
Right. And I have literally no idea where I picked that up. Like, I think that was just my 6-year-old brain just being like, this makes sense to me. So
that really is cool. I like how, when you are keeping score, you develop your own things that work for you. Do you think like, oh, this is something that helps me understand better what happened in this circumstance? I think that's very cool about keeping score. And it really is it's like a little art form for people. Yeah, I do appreciate that there are technical means that you can do it via an app. I remember seeing a guy doing it in the Carolina League in 2011 on an iPad. I think he was like the first person that I knew who had an iPad in the minor leagues. And I was like, what is this? And for me, it felt, not to be all like boomer back in my day, but like I do like the aspect of just doing it, writing it down, still doing something in that old school manner. But it is very cool that there are things developed now where, like, if you wanted to do it on a tablet, you can do it. That is really cool.
Yeah. And, sometimes you don't know how it's going to be scored. So, a question I always ask, say a guy gets a hit, ends up on second base, but you don't know, the outfielder might have bobbled it. You don't know if he, how they're going to score it. So, the question that comes up then is to be or not to be.
Oh man. I really thought that I wish everybody could see Sam's face right now. I wish this was a visual podcast. Everybody could see Sam's. If you had a picture of a 1,000-yard stare of somebody questioning all of their life decisions, that's Sam's face. At the moment.
I seem to inspire that in Sam.
That was really good though. But it is, I mean, in keeping score, that's one thing that has always confused me about, like, with an app. If you're doing it, just writing it in a scorebook, you can go back later and write like, okay, E7 or 2B. But with an app, it's like, do you put it in there as a double and then like you have to go back and correct it later? I don't really get how that. I sound so much like my mom. But what is an app? How does that work?
I'm sure there's an edit button on an app. I'm sure they figured it out.
I would imagine, but like that to me, because I get so much anxiety if I have done something wrong. And it used to be the worst when I had to do game day, because when you're inputting stuff, if you input something wrong and then the inning starts to get away from you, like while you're working on getting that fixed, you're also like frantically keeping notes of what's happening and then trying to fix the thing in game. That's horrible. I don't even want to think about when I had to do that.
Yeah, no, I have so much respect for people who have to do that. I've seen things go slightly awry and just think of how they back up in the moment. And
Yeah. Oh, it is not easy. It is
Yeah.
not easy. But that is very cool. And Ben, was there anything that stood out as far as like the coolest responses that you got from people of like how they learned or what they do?
Well, as I said, I think the coolest is the one I'm featuring this week that was just a standalone kind of essay about, a guy learning to score from his granddad. Literally, now it's a kind of a phrase kind of used in a more mocking or sarcastic way. But, for those keeping score at home, kind of like wink, wink, no one keeps score at home.
I
But
do
getting this
always
email-
follow that with who keeps score at home.
Right,
I'll say,
right.
if you're keeping score at home, and then I'm like, what kind of dork is home?
Yeah, no one can say that with a straight face, but it was great to get this. Like, this meant so much to me and my grandfather teaching me, and we just use like, a notebook with like yellow pages and use a ruler to like make the lineup out every night and then turn on the Yankees game. He was living in like northeastern Pennsylvania. So it's a whole saga that begins with that. But I got a lot of different responses. I mean, it was phrased of kind of like, do you keep score? And no one wrote in to be like, no, I don't. So I'm like, okay, everyone keeps score. It's great. Clearly that's not the case, but I think the people who were part of that club were really into it. And there were different kinds of responses. People like to use the notes section, to record different things, maybe like a concession item or who won a mascot race. Some people, I did get one response that said, I don't keep score anymore because I can see it online. So now I use my phone to like look up more about like the guys who are playing and while also keeping an eye like on game day and the updated score that way. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. Also in the newsletter, I'll ask a modified version of it to you guys real quick. Have a trivia question. You guys probably know the bit of trivia that in 1987, Ken Griffey Jr. hit his first professional home run at Everett Memorial Stadium. Now, Everett is now a Mariners affiliate, but Ken Griffey Jr. Hit his first professional home run on the road at Everett. They were then a Giants affiliate, and he was a member of the Bellingham Mariners, and that was in 1987. 21 years prior, another member of the 500 home run club hit his first professional home run in the Northwest League on the road, just like Ken Griffey Jr. did. So 1966, who hit his first professional home run as a member of the Northwest League on the road?
I was really proud of myself at the outset of this because I thought you were going to ask what team was Ken Griffey Jr. playing.
Yeah, so was I. I was like, Bellingham.
I remembered it like 2 seconds before you said Bellingham, and I was like, I'm going to get this. And then, dang it. 1966.
Yeah.
A member of the 500 home run club hit his first professional home run in Everett on the road.
No, just in the Northwest League.
In the Northwest League on the road.
I'll tell you, it was in Eugene at Bethel Park, which is long defunct. And he was a member of the long defunct Lewiston Bronx, which I guess is short for Broncos by one letter.
Yeah.
But yeah, he started his career with the Lewiston Bronx in the Northwest League, and his second game ever was on the road playing the Eugene Emeralds and hit his first home run, 1966.
1966, which means it was a career predominantly in the 70s and 80s.
That's correct.
I'm trying to think of like big power hitters of the 70s and 80s. Sam is racking his brain right now.
Yeah. Oh man, I just had it, and now it went away from me.
A 500 home run guy, played. I think he debuted in the 60s, but played through well into the 80s.
Oh, what? Oh, it's on.
I have a guess.
Yeah, he played for 4 teams.
Yeah. This is so. Oh,
I have a guess.
Say
Is
yes.
Sam, do you want me to guess?
Yes.
Or do you want to wait?
No, I want you to guess.
Is it Reggie Jackson?
It is Reggie Jackson.
Oh, well done.
Hey,
That's not
oh my God. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Trying to think of like power hitters in the 70s, which I don't know why, but like I don't think of the 70s and the 80s as like big time power era. Which there were power hitters, but I guess being a child of the 90s, like there's.
Yeah, I mean, when Reggie Jackson retired with 563, that was in the top.
Yeah, I was gonna say top 5, probably
top 5 or 6 at that time.
Man.
Now he's way down the list with everything that's happened in the ensuing decade.
My first guess was Willie McCovey, but that was probably a little too early.
Little early, I would say. Yeah. Wow, that was a good one though. That's a very good question.
Yeah, I came across that incidentally and was like, "Ooh, that's a good trivia."
Bellingham. That's the answer. Bellingham is the answer. All right, Ben. Well, we've also got a new alternate identity to discuss. This is one that had slipped above my radar. I don't know, somewhere outside of my radar, but it comes from Wisconsin, and I'm going to need you to explain it.
Yeah, I needed to do a little research in order to understand this one. I would definitely say it was below your radar because it involves ice fishing. And I will
That
say
makes more
this is a
sense.
general thing. I feel like teams' press releases with new alternate identities have to should have more detail to them. Because I think a lot of time they just assume the locals know what's up, but like for those of us who don't, I'm always like, wait, what? So I had to do some research on this. But the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers, as well as their sister team, Summer Collegiate, the Fond du Lac Dock Spiders, they will both be suiting up in July for one game as the Lake Winnebago Shantymen. And this
Shantymen.
the Shantymen, and this is a reference to ice fishing on Lake Winnebago, and the shanties are what you fish out of. So, I had to learn about this, but the shanties, they can be towed or hauled, and so they're hauled, they're towed out on the ice, and they have, open bottoms, and you cut a hole in the ice, and then you fish for sturgeon. Sturgeon are gigantic and
Huge fish.
prehistoric.
Yeah.
And the ice fishing season is, very regulated, only takes place for 2 weeks in February, which is why they announced it now, in conjunction with Lake Winnebago ice fishing season. But it's not just ice fishing, it's spearing. This is how you catch the sturgeon. It's spear fishing. So this is the first alternate identity ever devised around spear fishing and released in conjunction with spearing season. So I watched a video online, and it's kind of nuts. So the spears, which look like a trident, or at least in the video I watched, this 3-pronged spear with ropes attached to it. You just hang out in your shanty, probably have some drinks, and just look for these sturgeon going underneath. And then you throw a spear at them to catch it. And so that is how the Lake Winnebago Shantymen came about. And that is a unique identity. And that is what I like about alternate identities in general, when you can go on a journey, even though I do say teams in general, not just the Timber Rattlers, should maybe have a little more background info in their press releases. I like the journey of discovery of, like, I knew nothing about spear fishing and shanties and Lake Winnebago and sturgeons, but pretty cool. The Shantymen.
This seems like very small odds that, like, I would imagine Lake Winnebago is quite large. Did the sturgeon just swim up under the holes that regularly that you can just stab at them with a spear? It seems like that's like, needle in a haystack for attempting to spear. I get like throwing bait down and trying to fish for them, but just like waiting there with a trident to spear the sturgeon, that seems like a lot of time waiting.
Well, Tyler, you know this as well as we do. You've been fishing maybe more than anybody else on this podcast. What's the number one thing you need when you go fishing?
Patience.
And beer.
And beer. Patience and beer. All right, that's true.
Yeah, so I think like a lot of fishing excursions, it's just a chance to hang out with your friends on the ice, have some drinks. I'm sure there's been many fruitless days of spear fishing on Lake Winnebago, but that is how it's done. And then obviously the thrill of doing it. These sturgeon are gigantic.
Yeah,
and I was glad to see it's only a 2-week period. It's really regulated because I don't know really about the overall health of sturgeons, but I did see like a New York Times article recently that was just kind of like, sturgeon have survived for like millions of years. Will they survive us? And I was like, oh no, but it's just 2 weeks. I hope it's, like obviously it's a self-sustaining population. And it's definitely a Wisconsin thing, a Lake Winnebago thing. And
they really are terrifyingly large too. If you Google Lake Winnebago sturgeon, you pull up the Google Images tab, they're horrifying. They really are. They're like prehistoric creatures. It's like something that you would imagine somebody pulled out of a dry riverbed somewhere, and it's this is an 80 million year old fossil. But no, these still exist in Wisconsin.
And as I noted in my newsletter, this is not the most primitive fishing based alternate identity in minor league baseball, because Tulsa, the Drillers, a couple years ago introduced the Noodlers alternate identity.
Right, yeah.
And that is for the art and science of catching a catfish with your hands. You kind of like put your hand in its mouth and like catch it up like through the gills.
Which
so
sounds
there's
horrible.
Now we have spear fishing in Wisconsin through the Lake Winnebago Shantymen. and we have catfishing in Oklahoma with the noodlers. I think noodling is only like legal in 15 or 16 states.
I think I do remember that as a detail.
And I don't know how many people are chomping at the bit to do it illegally, but that takes some skill and some guts to just dive under the water and put your hand in a catfish's mouth. That's noodling.
To wrangle it.
Yeah, wrangle.
Yeah, the next step is for some team to come out with an identity that just like goes back even further, and it's just like the Inland Empire cavemen who throw rocks at fish. Like that'll be the last one.
I hope that's what it is. The name of the team is the cavemen who throw rocks at fish.
There's no actual term for it. You just have to describe it that way. It'd be a very lengthy jersey. All right, Ben. Well, we coming up in a little bit, we are going to hear from Pittsburgh Pirates prospect JP Massey. But before we do that, we are headed for a conversation on a fun initiative that's coming up out west. To give us the lowdown on one of our interviews for this week's episode.
Yeah, we're heading west, young men, to the Central Valley, to Fresno, California, where the Grizzlies, who have kind of set the template for non-game day events with the taco truck throwdown, and we've covered that on the show before. They have now a spinoff of the taco truck throwdown called Tequila Fest, and it's taking place in May. And the reason I reached out to the team and ended up speaking with Johnny Bravo, the Grizzlies, I forget his official job title, but marketing and media guy. The reason I reached out, and we'll be talking to him, is this Tequila Fest in May has Rick Ross, T.I., and Lil Jon on the bill. So by the context of minor league ballpark entertainers, that's a pretty big triumvirate at the top of the bill. So wanted to get the lowdown on everything they got planned and how Tequila Fest came about. And that's why we're going to Fresno to talk to Johnny Bravo. Here on the Show Before the Show podcast, I am joined by Johnny Bravo, the Director of Marketing and Communication for the Fresno Grizzlies. Johnny, I can't decide, but thank you for this.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us on. It's kind of crazy that baseball's right around the corner, but we're so excited.
It is right around the corner, and in a way, it always is. Even when it's far away, it's right around the corner. It's always looming just behind us, like I don't want to say a horror movie villain, because we look forward to it, but it's always lurking. But we're not here. We're here to talk about something happening during the baseball season, Saturday, May 20th at Chuck Chansey Park in Fresno. But this is not a baseball game we're talking about. We are talking about Tequila Fest. And listeners of this podcast might know we've done segments on, or you just might know the Grizzlies. They've been doing the taco truck throwdown for many years, well over a decade. And this, in a way, is maybe this came about as an offshoot of the taco truck throwdown. But wow, the Tequila Fest. It's featuring T.I., Rick Ross, and Lil Jon, in addition to, I'm sure, lots of tequila.
Yep.
There's a lot to get into here, but let's just start with the basics. So, how did this come about to go from the taco truck throwdown and do a new standalone event with tequila?
Yeah, well, you kind of hit the nail right on the head. We've done Taco Truck Throwdown for what is going into its 12th year at this point. It's such a strong brand. There's so many exciting things about it. There's so many people across the nation who know about it, that in order to bring in this new event under the Taco Truck Throwdown umbrella was just an opportunity we couldn't pass up, right? And like you said, that lineup is incredible, right? You've got T.I., Rick Ross, Lil Jon. The amount of people who know those individuals alone and will come out just to see them perform is huge. Then you throw in tequila and vendors and VIP areas and cigar bar, the whole 9 yards. I mean, we're going to activate the entire ballpark for this event. It's really an amazing opportunity on May 20th out here at the ballpark that we just couldn't be more excited about.
Yeah, definitely wanting to get into the music, but let's start with the tequila, because it is Tequila Fest after all. How do you put that element together with different vendors, different tastings? How's it going to be set up for, in terms of the vendors you're working with, and also how the fans can, responsibly enjoy tequila on this night?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, again, going back to Taco Truck Throwdown, we have a lot of experience putting on these kinds of events with a lot of different vendors, right? So, in that kind of aspect, it's something we know how to perform really, really well. So at this point, it's just moving from tacos to tequila. So there's going to be a ton of different tasting. There's going to be margaritas, of course. There's not necessarily going to be the voting component that you have with Taco Truck Throwdown, but I guarantee our fans are going to say, oh, you got to go check out this vendor because they've got the best margarita or anything like that. So it's really exciting, kind of twist on the Throwdown. A twist on something that we've never really done before, right? We've in years past added the Michelada Throwdown to Taco Truck Throwdown. We've had different alcohol avenues that we've experienced with that event. So now having an event that's pretty much solely focused on it is really exciting for us.
Yeah, and I know you don't look at necessarily as a tequila fest as like, oh, an educational experience, but like anything, there's a lot to learn with tequila. Whenever I order it, I always wish I kind of knew more. I know there's the different, I'm always forgetting the words for the amount of time it's been aged. Will there be learning opportunities as well at Tequila Fest?
I'm sure there will be. All of the vendors who are going to be out there are, very knowledgeable of their craft, of course. And it's I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Is I really don't know that much more than the surface level, so I'm excited to be educated as well and to get to try all the different offerings that we have, here in the Central Valley.
Yeah, and you've had some pretty big names at the Taco Truck Throwdown, entertainment wise, as the years have gone on. But it seems like this triumvirate you have for Tequila Fest is like a whole nother level. Again, T.I., Rick Ross, Lil Jon, and these are all artists who come with, I'm sure, substantial guarantees in terms of how much it takes to get into the ballpark. I imagine, an outlay of cash, much more than the typical minor league performer. What gives you that confidence as an organization, to put so much of an investment into this, knowing that it'll come back through the event itself?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you kind of said it yourself that the headliners speak for themselves, right? I mean, those three alone, you hear those three names just by themselves, and it's massive, right? And then you put them all together. I mean, the promoters and the artist camps, when we told them, hey, this is what we're looking at, they were shocked. They were like, oh my gosh, this is so cool to have those three individuals on the same stage in one night is massive. We've got a lot of really great partners involved with it. Estrella Jalisco, Michelob Ultra, Fresno Street Eats, who are helping provide the food truck side of things, Fresno Suit Outlet, all sorts of really great people who are helping put on what is a massive event, right? But we know that our fans are going to be thrilled to get to come see these people, and they really proved it when we went on sale on Friday morning. It was pretty phenomenal to see everyone rush to the website, buy their tickets. Tickets absolutely flew off the shelves even in like the first 10-15 minutes. We were like, okay, it's in a really good place. We feel really, really good about this, and it's really all anyone's talking about in Fresno. You turn on the news, you go to the websites, news websites, and it's Tequila Fest. Oh my gosh, did you see who's coming? Oh, you've got to go to this event because tickets are going to sell fast, and they really are. Like, if fans need to buy their tickets early because this thing will probably sell out.
Yeah, and in terms of internal discussions, I mean, you've got three big names. Were those the first choices, or you wanted to go in that hip hop direction? What are the decision making process, and ultimately ending up with these three headliners?
Yeah, absolutely. T.I. was kind of the first domino to fall, so to speak. He was the one that it was like, yeah, he's our top billing headliner. He's, one that's really going to draw. And then after that, it was Rick Ross. Everyone knows Rick Ross. Everyone knows Lil Jon. So it all kind of fell into place all at once, so to speak. And again, when we went to the artist camps and we, went to T.I. and said, hey, these are the people we're considering, they were like, wow, that is a really, really cool lineup. So we've obviously all got those three. We also have tons of local acts. Central Valley has tons of local musical talent, both as DJs, hip hop groups, and kind of a variety of different musical acts. So they'll be sprinkled in throughout the evening as well. And it will be full on entertainment from the time gates open at 4:30 up until T.I. finishes his set at the end of the evening.
Yeah, and I guess it goes without saying, this is a hokey observation, but you have Lil Jon on the bill, one of his signature songs being Shots.
Naturally.
This is Tequila Fest. I mean, it seems pretty likely. I know you can't probably dictate an artist's set list, but it seems pretty likely that people will be able to do a shot of tequila while Lil Jon.
I'd be pretty stunned if that doesn't happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, talk about making memories at the ballpark,
Right.
For sure. And this has been a thing. I mean, I think the Grizzlies have been pioneers in it, obviously, especially with the taco truck throwdown. But I think something that's more and more important to minor league teams. I mean, yes, you have, AAA case, how many home games? Like 75 home games now.
Yes, a lot, yeah.
And those are all entertainment events in their own rights. But how important, as a business for the overall organization's business model is it to have these outside events that, draw people outside of baseball?
Absolutely. It's huge, and it's not only big for us on a business side, but it's also a source of pride for us, right? To be able to bring massive names like this and cement Chansey Park, not only as, a place for entertainment in Fresno, but the Central Valley and California as a whole. I mean, these three acts are coming to the heart of downtown Fresno, and that's something that we just take so much pride in. On top of the fact that, the Savannah Bananas are coming later in the year. We've had, pro soccer games, Mexican professional soccer games in years past. Tons of huge concerts out here. Taco Truck Throwdown, of course. But it's extremely important to us as an organization, and it's something that the city of Fresno is extremely passionate about as well. Of showing that Fresno, especially downtown, is a hotbed for entertainment and can really hold massive events like this. Week in and week out. It's something that we take a ton of pride in.
Yeah, so there might be I'm sure some details to figure out still a few months away from the event, but if you could kind of create an image in our minds, Saturday, May 20th, fans walk into the ballpark, or even outside of the ballpark before they go in. Mm-hmm. What is going to be the scene at the ballpark in terms of, where the stage is, where the vendors are, and, how you get all these different elements together into one space?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're very, very blessed to have a very substantially sized ballpark, so we will make sure to make use of that entire area. We're going to activate the entire ballpark from our Fresno social area, which is our freestanding bar, to our, a cantina area, which will almost certainly host some of the vendors, Tulare Plaza, which is an area still in the ballpark gates, but on the outside of kind of the main part of the ballpark. We'll have vendors, our cigar lounge. We're going to have the stage, in center field, like we do for Taco Truck Throwdown and many of our other events. So, fans will actually get to come down on the baseball field and enjoy these great events. We're going to have a VIP section that's a little bit closer to the stage, completely private, with private bars, lounge chairs, really, really that feeling of luxury when you walk into the VIP area. Some some food trucks on the field, a lot more up on the concourse, and then vendors kind of throughout the ballpark. So, anywhere you look, you're going to see that, wow, this is a big event. There's, tons going on, and I need to make sure I go over here because I've got to check out these vendors, or, ooh, I really like that food truck. I've got to go check it out. And then, of course, the pinnacle of it all in center field on that stage.
Yeah, and one of the cool things about the Taco Truck Throwdown, is it highlights these local taco trucks. So, it's a point of pride, not just to be at the event, but to win it. It gives people their own sort of points of, a starting point to explore when they visit Fresno, all the different taco trucks that they can seek out. Is there going to be an element of that with the Tequila Fest, do you think, where it kind of spurs people being like, oh, I can go here and get this kind of tequila, or this restaurant serves the best margarita? Do you think there's going to be a lot of, post-event local engagement on that front?
Yeah, I really hope so. That's one of the things that we think about whenever we bring any sort of event to the ballpark is, how can it benefit the community, right? And not only with this event at its surface, it's bringing out, probably 10 to 15,000 people to downtown Fresno. That's huge for our surrounding businesses. And then when you talk about the vendors who will be inside the ballpark, getting to engage with all of these visitors, I really hope that it will help lift these businesses up, because again, at its core, that's one of the things our organization is most passionate about. We are very proud to be at the core of downtown Fresno's revitalization process, and anything we can do to help lift up not only the businesses around us, but in the Central Valley as a whole is, really a source of pride for us.
Yeah, and while obviously a lot of attention is being focused on this event now coming up on May 20th, are the wheels still turning on, what is another thing kind of, if not totally specific to Fresno, but the Fresno, has deep roots within, what directions you could go from here with tacos, tequila, other elements of Fresno culture.
Always, we're always thinking, okay, what's big, what's next? Obviously we're, definitely focused on Taco Truck Throwdown 12, which is an extremely exciting thing to be able to say that, we're in our 12th year of this phenomenal event. So, full steam ahead of that. And then of course the baseball season too, with it being only a couple months away, our home opener being April 11th, it's, full steam ahead on that, making sure that we're truly prepped, ready to welcome fans back to the ballpark. Our field actually is not much of a field right now. It's we're getting it resurfaced, which is an exciting thing. That's the first time in our ballpark's history. So you look out there and it's a bunch of dirt right now, which is really odd for a baseball field. But really full steam ahead and constant planning for what's coming up this year, but also years in the future.
Yeah, and I will note that Johnny, as he was speaking, was literally looking to his left, out his office window, on the field itself. Yep. And on one hand, we're seeing the field in that not done condition. It says, oh, there's opening day is not right around the corner. But
right.
Here we are in February, AAA opening day, March 31st, Fresno Grizzlies, home opener, April 11th, Tequila Fest, May 20th. Taco Truck Throwdown 12. That won't be for later in the year, correct? That's
probably in October. We haven't officially announced a date yet, but in past couple of years, it's been around October.
Yeah, so lots going on in Fresno as always. But if you're in the area or want to make a special trip, I would love to. I'm not sure if I can make it, but May 20th, Tequila Fest with T.I., Rick Ross, and Lil Jon. Very interested to see how that event goes. And from a minor league ballpark perspective, it's about as big as it gets. So really cool thing to see. Jonathan Bravo, Johnny Bravo, Director of Marketing and Communication for the Fresno Grizzlies. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me on, man.
Well, our thanks to Ben and Johnny Bravo for talking about the Fresno Tequila Fest in that last segment. We're seconding it to a second interview segment this week on the show before the show. Tyler and I chatted with JP Massey, a Pittsburgh Pirates pitching prospect. You may not have heard much about JP in the past. He was a 7th round pick last year out of the University of Minnesota. But we had a lot to talk about, what it's like going through a first offseason, what it's like trying to prepare for a first spring training. JP has experience in the Dream Series with MLB and MLB Develops. We touch on that a little bit. And he hails from Chicago. What is it like trying to be a pitcher coming through a cold weather state? Now he talked to us from Arizona. He's getting set to go to Bradenton, Florida very shortly. Here's our conversation with JP Massey. Well, we're very pleased this week to be joined on the Show Before the Show podcast, the official podcast of minor league baseball, by Pirates pitching prospect JP Massey. JP, you are currently in Arizona, which is very different from what you are used to. What is the start to the offseason, or what has the offseason been like? We're basically at the end of it here.
Yeah, we're at the end of it. It's kind of coming around really fast. This is my first spring training approaching, and so just getting adjusted to what the off-season schedule is like is a little bit different, but it's been fantastic. Like you said, I'm in Arizona right now. I've been training with a great group of guys. One of my teammates, Clint Priester, Alec Thomas, Donovan Williams, et cetera. So I've had a lot of professional guys around me, some that have made it to the big league, so they can give me some advice on how to approach this whole process. But we've just been competing, trying to get better and prepare to dominate this season, hopefully.
Yeah, those are some good names to drop. Alec Thomas being another Chicago area guy, Quinn Priester being another Pirates guy. What have they told you about what to expect about a first full season?
Honestly, it kind of remains the same. Just continue to work hard and be prepared for anything. Obviously, when you get down there, it's going to be extremely competitive. There's going to be a lot of moving parts. And so just try to always stay attentive, be prepared. And whenever they give you an opportunity to, show your talent and show how the hard work you put in to go out there and dominate, give it your best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're talking to you here now in early February. Spring training technically happens this month on the big league side. Where are you at in terms of preparedness? What does your throwing program look like? What are you doing right now?
I'm ready. I'm excited. We've been throwing for a while now. Started throwing bullpens a few weeks ago, and so Yeah, it's been a while. I didn't get to play after I got drafted. They basically kind of shut me down and just had me throwing sides just because of the amount of innings I threw in college. And so it's been a while since I've got to see some hitters in the box. And so I'm kind of biting at the chop right there, and ready to get to it and get after it.
Yeah, when you are throwing right now, what are you focused on? Is it just waking up the arm again? Is there certain pitches you're working on? How does that work?
Yeah, this off season, I've been taking a real meticulous approach as to what I'm trying to do, not trying to overdo anything. We worked extremely hard and really solidifying my lower half, just making sure I have a solid base. So when it gets to that time for me to, unwind and unleash the baseball, I'm in the right position to do so effectively. And so that's pretty much been the whole focus for myself the offseason, just trying to get my lower half in a solid position to where I can just let the stuff play and I can try to be on top of hitters every single at bat.
Yeah, for sure. And when we're talking about where you are now compared to where you were a year ago in Minnesota, it's crazy. First off, being in Scottsdale, you're wearing a short sleeve shirt. It's very different from that aspect. But how is that transition going from, right now you're basically preparing for games if you were still in college versus now you have to prepare to play into August and September?
Yeah, it's definitely a difference in how you approach the off season. I'd say for pro ball, it's more of a marathon, whereas college seems more like a sprint. In college, this time they're getting ready for games within the next couple of weeks, and so you're trying to be as close as you can to dominant and full go when the season starts. Whereas pro ball, you still have spring training and it's a long season, and so you have to properly prepare your body to be able to endure a full season and stay healthy. Hopefully, knock on wood, I haven't been through it yet, but I've had some people like we said earlier with Clint Priester being my roommate, somebody that can stay on top of me and kind of guide me as to what he's been through and what he's seen to help him get through the process each and every year.
All right, JP, well, we're talking about like what you were doing last year in Minnesota. Take me through that last year with the Gophers. I mean, you're going potentially into a draft year. What was that season like for you last spring?
Last year was I don't know. I'd say it was different. I was going into a draft year. It's my second time, and I just come off a very disappointing season for myself personally, statistically and mentally, just some of the things that I was doing on the field. And so going into last year, I wanted to take kind of a step back from the game in terms of just evaluating where I am as a person. And I was able to go into my senior year of college, get my degree, which meant a lot to myself and my family. I'm sorry, I have a B right here. And me and bees don't get along. So if I'm freaking out, just give me.
I just saw the silhouette of it come in and I was like, oh, what is happening?
I know. But last year, like I said, I was able to get my degree. I was able to go out there and kind of just enjoy the game again, and kind of have fun and get back to the reason I started playing. And so now being in pro ball, it's really exciting because it kind of gets right back to it, to where I felt like I had used last year as a platform to get in the right spot mentally. And now I'm ready to go compete. It's always fun facing the best players in the world. And that's what we're getting yourself into when you get into the professional side of the business.
JP, let's go back one summer prior to your pro debut year. You get to pitch in the MLB Draft League in 2021, and you pitch for the West Virginia Black Bears, and a place that we all, as people who have been familiar with the minor leagues, been so familiar with over the history of that franchise. But I want to know what the Draft League was like for you. It's such a new endeavor. That was the first season for it in 2021, and for those of us on the outside looking in, it looks like a really cool initiative and a cool new platform for players who are in that position going into draft years. But what was that whole summer like for you, getting a chance to pitch and kind of not exactly pro ball, but something that kind of has the feel of pro ball?
Yeah, that summer, honestly, it was one of the best summers of my life. And it was for a plethora of reasons, of course, but I was able to get out there. I had a lot of friends that I knew from high school on that team that I hadn't been able to play with or even really be around for a long time. And so it kind of just brought that kid back out of me, where I was showing up to the field. I was excited. Like I was just happy to be around my friends, whether I was starting or not that day. It was always something new. And so we had a great coaching staff. And, like you said, it kind of plays right into pro ball, where we were on a different schedule. It was my first time throwing every 5 days. So when you have to make that Tuesday start and then bounce back for that Sunday, it's a different beast as opposed to college, where it's every 7 days. And so it was a great platform for everyone to showcase their talent. And then for me, it was just an opportunity to get back within myself. And I had some success. It wasn't perfect there either. And it provided me some opportunities to go into pro ball a year earlier. But like I said, last year was just vital for me to use as a reset. So when I get into pro ball, I'm in the right place to not only execute what I'm trying to do, but hopefully have success while doing it.
How much does it help when you get an opportunity, like you said, to sort of hit that reset button and you rediscover just the things that you love about the game and the things that make you happy about the game? I know you've played this game for a long time in a lot of different spots, you know, as a high school player, as a college player, now getting into pro ball. When you find the things that you still love about it, what does that do for you mentally?
It's rejuvenating. I mean, this game, it's stressful at times, and it's a game that's nonstop. I mean, you play almost every single day, so it's hard to get away from it. When things are going bad, when you're struggling, it's hard to separate, you know, on field versus off the field. And so, just to have that reset, it was, you know, like I said, it was a rejoice for me because now I'm back in a spot where visualizing the game is fun to me again. I'm seeing myself having success. When I leave the field, I'm able to separate and be that person. And you know, for everyone, their paths are different. Some guys have success the whole way. Some guys are up and down. And so you learn things throughout this process. And for me, like I said, I was very blessed and fortunate to have success to where I had some projections, some rankings, things like that, which are super cool. And I was on the other side where I was, you know, failing miserably. And everybody that was coming to see my games weren't seeing much because I wasn't doing well. And within that, I'd say the greatest takeaway that I had personally was just evaluating who my character was off the field, just in general. When you're going good, it's easy to be whoever you want to be because everyone wants to be around you. Everyone loves that you're having success. But it's those days when you're not that guy, when you're not a superstar, do people still want you to be their teammate? Do they want to be your friend? Are you a good, you know, son, whatever it may be? And so I just try to work hard to, you know, impact everyone's life on a daily basis, whoever I'm around, whether it's a 5-minute convo or an hour, just being that person to where no matter what I'm doing on or off the field, people appreciate my presence.
I hope a lot of people are listening to that part because I think a lot of people could take away from something from that, whether it's baseball or just life in general. But when you do hit that reset button and you're going into last year, I mean, you had to show some stuff. Like you had to show stuff to get drafted where you did. Where do you feel like your arsenal took a jump last year?
My curveball, I started throwing it a lot last year, and it was a really good pitch for me. And it was something that kept hitters off balance and something that at a certain point, guys were like, I don't really want to swing at this pitch. And so for me, I just started hammering it even more. And so last year wasn't perfect by any means. I had outings that were great. I had outings that were awful. And you have the ones in between. And I guess that's anybody at any level. And it's about that middle area. How good are you or how bad are you? And so, like I said, last year I did some things and I was able to show myself some things mentally, like I'm able to get through this. When times get tough, can I bounce back? And so I just feel like everything is a part of your journey. You know, I wish that I was a #1 overall draft pick. Heck, I wish I was in the big leagues right now, but that's not my path. And I know that the things that I've went through, the trials and tribulations, are only going to prepare me for when I get that opportunity within pro ball. And so I just try to build off of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, even those trials and tribulations you went through last year still ended up in a 7th round pick. Not a lot of guys get taken that early. What conversations did you have with the Pirates after they took you and they decided to sign you and said like, hey, this is the pitcher we think you can be?
Yeah, so going into the draft, you're open-minded. You don't know what's going to happen. And the area guy, Anthony Lickledent, he actually gave me a call the day of that I got drafted, day 2. And it was kind of just like a friendly call, you know, just how are you doing, checking in. And so, you know, I kind of had an idea that maybe they were interested, but I didn't know. And so when I got the call, it was an exciting feeling. The first Little League team I ever played for was the Pirates. And I'm sure hopefully one day, God willing, I'll make my debut and that picture will go viral. I'm saving that one. But yeah, following, you know, it was about who do I want to be? Who do I see myself being at the big league level? And that's something that I work on daily. And so with that, it took me taking another step back and evaluating where I can improve at. And so, like I said earlier, through the offseason, I've been working on my lower half, trying to stabilize more to where I'm getting in consistent positions to execute every single time. Because when I'm on top of hitters, I know that I can be a dominant pitcher in this game. And so it's just always trying to find ways to build on that, and also build that confidence when you're within yourself. It doesn't matter how good your stuff is. It doesn't matter how good your stat line is. If you're not confident, eventually you're going to get punched in the mouth. And so you got to be able to bounce back from that. And so that's some of the things that I've worked through this offseason, some of the things I've talked with the Pirates about. The few things in the arsenal that may have improved and may change this year. But, you know, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just going to go out there and show it. And I don't want to try to give any advantages. I need all the help I can get in this sport.
When you get into the routine, JP, of especially like you said, in the draft league, kind of learning how to go every 5 days and all of that, now having access to, big league resources, big league facilities, big league training staffs and coaching staffs and all of that, what is something that you've learned so far that you think like, oh, I have not encountered this yet in my career, and this feels like it could be really helpful? Is there anything that stands out from what the Pirates have communicated to you, or what you've been able to do so far that's like, oh, this is part of being a big league ball player eventually? I think I can get this down.
I'd say the biggest thing, and you get it in college as well, but I'd say routine. Like at this point, when you realize like this is your career, this is literally what's putting food on the table for you. You can't play around with it. Like now that I don't have the extra things like school, and I don't want to say in the way, because school is valuable. Anyone listening, take school serious. It's highly important. You can't get anywhere without it. However, when you don't have classes, you don't have all extracurricular things, especially during the off season, you have no excuse not to be able to get your work in, take care of your meals, take care of hydration, whatever it may be. And so it's just being a professional. That's the biggest thing. Taking care of yourself, understanding it's your career. That at the end of the day, whether you're a Hall of Famer or you never, make it to the big leagues, no one's going to care about your career more than you. And so you have to be a professional about it. You got to take care of yourself.
JP, let's talk a little bit about your road getting, not only to where you are now, pro ball, but also to Minnesota. You're a Chicago area kid, grew up playing ball. I know through the White Sox ACE program, you won the RBI World Series in 2018. And the RBI program through Major League Baseball over the last couple of decades has taken so many different jumps and has grown by leaps and bounds. When you, I would imagine, either you have or you will go back and, see the kids who are now playing in those programs where you were 5-10 years ago, for those kids, for young athletes to see, oh, here's a guy who's like me growing up in my area, and now he's on a professional deal with a big league organization. What does that mean to you to know that you're kind of somebody who can go back and relate to the baseball world that you came from and say like, hey, stick with it. You could find yourself, pitching in the Big Ten. You could be a D1 guy. You could be a professional signee. That's got to be a really incredible feeling.
It means the world. It's funny. About a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I had an opportunity to go to the Dream Series here in Arizona, which I was a part of the very first one. And so to see how far that event has come, it's leaps and bounds. I tell everybody what we had, I was extremely grateful and appreciative, but what the resources and the people they have walking around that place now, it's unbelievable. And so I was able to go back. It was people way bigger than I am, Hunter Green, Jordan Adele, whoever it may be, Justin Dunn. And so that's impactful to me, because I think when I was younger, just to have the opportunity to see someone that's a big leaguer, or see someone that I, idolize, it means a lot to see them in person, because you understand now they're normal. Like, I think sometimes you get caught up when you don't have the exposure into thinking that some of these guys have superpowers because they're doing these miraculous things in whatever sport it is. And then you get to know them a little bit and you realize like they're human. They worked hard. Some guys, they may have a little bit more than you, but at the end of the day, anybody can do it. As long as you put in the work and you dedicate yourself, you have an opportunity at anything you put your mind to. And so that's the most important thing for me. It's not always about donating things. Sometimes donating your time is the most valuable thing you can do. And so just being there for the kids, allowing them to have those conversations and maybe talk to you about some of their insecurities so they can grow through it. That's the most important thing to me, just trying to give back. And it's something that I'm very passionate about.
Yeah. And we were talking before about like you and Alec Thomas are both Chicagoland area guys, and your high school, I was looking up before, it's like a 15-minute drive south of Guaranteed Rate Field. I feel like so much of high school ball now is dominated by guys from California and Texas and Florida. The cold weather state guys, whenever you guys break out, it sticks out in my mind. What is Chicago area baseball like? Like, what was it like coming through that system in which I'm sure you were pitching in gyms in February? You weren't throwing on the field. So like you still developed into a pro pitcher. What was it like going through that?
We're just grinders, man. We work hard. It doesn't matter who's watching, where we are, we work hard. But I feel a little shady talking about it, being that I'm in Arizona now. Like I'm not that tough of a guy.
You got out. You escaped. You can't.
However, I did my time in Chicago and Minnesota, which is even colder. So I feel like I've earned this right at this point. But, we have the facilities now. Like while it may not be directly comparative to, guys in Cali or Florida, like the facilities are there, the weight rooms, the big turf fields, the mounds, whatever it may be. And so there is no excuse not to get your work in. And while you may have a slower start when you get outside or whatever it may be, you can always use things to your advantage. Like I know I have the experience pitching in the cold numerous times. In my mind, I like to look at it as maybe when we get to October and I'm in the playoffs, hopefully pitching for the Pirates, I can deal with the cold. I've been here before. I'm not used to always throwing in 85, 90-degree weather. And so it's always things that you could build for them. You may look at it as a disadvantage now, but later down the road, it might be something that, pushes you way beyond everyone else.
Yeah. And given all your years of development since then, I mean, if you could go back to the junior version of yourself, what would be different about you as a pitcher? I'm sure you've added some miles per hour as you've matured, but just what would it be like to go back to yourself as a junior in high school and say like, hey, there is a path here for you to actually become pro?
It would, first of all, it'd be a blast because I was still hitting then, and I loved hitting. I had to make the business decision, but I enjoyed the heck out of going out there and being able to mash every single day. But just looking back, honestly, I just try to tell myself to enjoy the game. I think that, being on the business side of it now, especially going through the draft process, which is kind of the most business-oriented part that I've been through to this point, sometimes you forget what you're doing it for, and it starts to become much more than baseball. And so I just really try to go out there and enjoy every second I had where there was no fear, there was no anxiety. It was another game, and I was trying to go kill. I was trying to go dominate whatever I was doing and win that game. And so just trying to keep that same lightheartedness that you see some of these guys in the big leagues having. And that's why they have the success. They don't put additional pressure on themselves.
All right, JP, I got to ask you a question about your Big Ten time. Being somebody who, like we said, you've probably been throwing indoors a lot, working in gyms until March and April and all that. I got to ask you a two-fold question. Your favorite venue that you played at in college baseball and the weirdest venue that you played at in college baseball? Because I think you guys played a few games at US Bank Stadium, right? The home of the Vikings. So, and it's not like it was the Metrodome where it was sort of built with the idea of baseball also in mind. So it's a very unorthodox looking field, but favorite place and like the most unorthodox place that you've played.
So I'll start with most unorthodox is definitely US Bank Stadium. I love the place, especially being in Minnesota. I will never choose being out at Siebert in March where it's still snowing. So the fact that we get to play and stay home is awesome. However, the places, the metrics are a little different. It's a football field. And I think the worst part is that no matter how many fans you have, it will never feel like anyone's there. I mean, the place is made to fit 100,000 people, and the most we're getting is maybe 8 or 10 or whatever it may be. So no one ever feels like they're cheering or anything. So I say that's the weirdest, but I did love that place. And the most exciting, I'd say TD Ameritrade. I played there my freshman year in the Big Ten tournament, and I got to throw against Nebraska in game 1. Being the hometown team, it's all red in the stands. They're doing their big chants, go big red and all that stuff. And I'm a freshman that didn't think he was throwing in game 1 of the Big Ten tournament. So when my coach called me, he said, Massey, go get hot. And I looked around, wondering whose last name was Massey until everyone
is there another one of us here?
Right? I mean, it was one of those situations where it's like, there's no way you're the first guy out of the pen. We started getting beaten a little bit by that point, but I was like, we'll get one of our mature guys in there to hold it down. And I got called and I got to run past all the fans to get to the bullpen. But, I had one of my best outings. It was a blast. I had people yelling against me. It was a lot of fun. It was an experience that I wouldn't take back for anything.
That is
all right,
awesome.
JP. Well, as we look forward to your first full season here, also, before I get into my question, I feel like, Tyler, you should say, what school did you go to?
I probably should admit that I'm a Nebraska alumnus. So I was very selfishly excited when you said that. I felt very good. But this is how old I am compared to especially you, but even Sam. In my college career, we were still in the Big 12. So we didn't even have the series in Ann Arbor or in the Twin Cities or wherever. So that was it was a much different world back then.
I will say, while I don't love Nebraska, being a Minnesota guy, you guys packed the stands no matter where we played, and I appreciate that. People, especially for baseball, people coming out, it makes the environment that much better, that much more competitive. Their adrenaline starts flowing. So I always love facing Nebraska. Absolutely.
JP and I right now are the handshake emoji. It's like his name, my name, Nebraska fans, and we're the handshake.
Absolutely.
You guys are making me feel like I chose the wrong region.
Yeah, take that, Northeastern guy.
I know. Yeah. But anyway, what I was about to say was as you're looking forward here to your first full season, we've talked so much about the growth that you've had over the last 2 years. When you look forward to what things could be at the end of September, what are you hopeful you'll be saying by then, having experience, whether it's Bradenton or Greensboro or, maybe even Altoona? What are you hoping you'll be able to say at the end of September about what your first full season was like?
Cool. That is a loaded question. I don't know. I guess the most simple answer I can give is that I hope that all the hard work I put in this off season pays off. I think hard work is one of those things that, it's difficult to motivate yourself to do something every day, especially not knowing what the outcome will be. Hard work doesn't guarantee you success. And so sometimes it's difficult when you know how much work you put in and you still don't have that success or you're having failure. And so I hope by the end that I'm able to just follow my process and go out there each and every day, remain confident. I'm going to say dominate, because who wants to go out there and get licked up every single time they pitch? So I hope that by the end, I get to look at my journey and be appreciative for the year that I had and hopefully build on it. Because at the end of the day, I'm trying to get to Pittsburgh as quick as possible, and I'm trying to help the team win as soon as possible.
Yeah, and we'll end on this one real quick. I feel like you've introduced yourself really well to Pirates fans over this last 20 minutes we've been talking, but as they get to know you, because this is your introduction to Pirates baseball, they're going to see you for the first time this spring. What do you hope they know about you as both a Pirates prospect and a future Pirate yourself?
There's a lot of personality there. I don't think it's overbearing. I would like to think not, but there's a lot of personality. And I'm always going to be a regular person. So I'm always going to be someone that's going to banter with the fans, talk with anybody. It doesn't really matter. Like I said earlier, I try to make a positive impact. Won't always work, but I'm just human. So just come up to me. I'm willing to talk. I'm willing to give advice where I can. And you'll see a lot of stuff coming here soon, whether it's bowling, golfing, just being competitive, being myself. I think they'll see some stuff coming out here soon.
Well, I'm very excited to see it, and very excited to see you out there in Bradenton coming up here in the spring. I think I will be in Bradenton, so I'm going to be searching you out, man. I want to see this curveball that you talked about it, how it developed, and the other things you weren't willing to talk about how your stuff is developing. So,
hey, if I give it out now, then I'm putting myself at a disadvantage. Like I said,
I hear you,
Pittsburgh, and I'm trying to hold my cards tight like I'm playing poker.
I understand you pitchers. I know how it works. That's
yes,
fine.
Sir.
But JP Massey, thanks so much for joining us here on the show before the show, and we'll be checking in with you down the line.
Absolutely. Thank you again for having me. And Pirates, let's go Bucks.
Well, huge thanks to JP Massey from the Pittsburgh Pirates organization for joining the show this week. And Josh Jackson stops by for Ghost of the Minors coming up next. But before he does, we wanted to give you an item of note. If you love Ghost of the Minors, which we know you do because everybody does, you can go to MILB.com. We now have a story form edition of Ghost of the Minors that is up on the site right now. Josh tackles a team from the Cornhusker State, the Beatrice Milk Skimmers. And that is the way that you pronounce that town's name. If you were reading it and wondering, the Beatrice Milk Skimmers, who played in the Mink League, which resides in Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska, and Kansas. And you can take a look at what the Milk Skimmers were like in the early part of the 1900s. That's up on the site right now. Josh Jackson swinging by for Ghost of the Minors.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
We interrupt this podcast to bring you another thrilling edition of Ghosts of the Minors. Now, here's your correspondent and host, Joshua Jackson.
Welcome back to Ghosts of the Minors, in which all of you out there in Radioland must identify the legitimate historical ball club hiding amidst the fraudulent pair. One really played ball in the olden days. If you think you've heard of the others, you're in a hazy daze. In the last segment, I asked you which of the following minor league baseball teams did at one time exist. A, the Yosemite Sams. B, the Grand Rapids Joshers. C, the Tyler Tylerians. D, the South Bend Bends. You'll be certain I'm joshing with you, but B, the Grand Rapids Joshers were dead serious when they took the field representing Michigan's Furniture City in the Central League of 1920 and 1921. The joshiest Josh on the Joshers was Josh DeVore, who by that point had already had the distinction of playing on teams that went to the World Series in 4 consecutive years. Likely feeling a victim of a cosmic joke when he was on the losing side as a member of the New York Giants in both 1911 and 1912, and seeing that club lose again in 1913 after he'd been traded that May, but earning the last laugh as a member of the Boston Miracle Braves of 1914. A one-time speed demon who'd enlisted in the Army to fight in the Great War, DeVore returned to the game with the American Association's Indianapolis Club in 1919, then was hired, partially on the basis of a recommendation of Indy manager Jack Hendricks, to helm the Grand Rapids entry to the reformed Central League in early May of 1920, not more than 2 weeks before the circuit season began. The Central League had been out of business since shutting down for the war after the 17 campaign, and a good deal of effort and expense went into its rebirth with 4 teams for 1920, the hiring of DeVore to manage and play for the Grand Rapids Club serving as one of the final pieces of the puzzle to get that season together. From the first month of DeVore's hiring, the press began to refer to Josh DeVore's club at Grand Rapids, and variations thereof, leading to the team being casually called the Joshers. DeVoreans just doesn't have the same ring. But this team was not just joking around. Opponents got no chuckles out of the Joshers, who went 76-50 to win the Gonfalon, as league batting champion Lance Richborg provided abundant offense, and no hurler in the league pitched prettier than Frank Rose. The Joshers' jabs fell flat in 21, though, as DeVore, the ultimate Josher, was replaced as manager by one Louis Wolf in August, and the club wound up 59-71, 28 and a half games out of first place. The next year, Bob Wells was in the skipper's seat, and the Grand Rapids team went into the books as the Bill Bobs. And that's how things turned too serious for the Joshers. Now, on to the question for next time. Which of these teams was always ready to provide run support in the minors of yesteryear? A, the Fredericksburg Guy Fridays. B, the Port Louisa Sidekicks. C, the Newark Co-Pilots. Want to know the answer? Get some help. Or tune into the next Ghost to the Minors. But for now, you'll have to excuse me. My producer Ben Hill is making plans for Valentine's Day, and I've got to find him 2 tickets to the donkey races.
All right, well, we'll get set to say goodbye for this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. Big thanks to Josh Jackson for stopping by. The Joshers, I was really disappointed. Who do I contact in Tyler, Texas? There's never been a team called the Tylerians. I'm not really pleased about that. Like, I'm happy for Josh with the Joshers, but
yeah, or the South Bend Bends. Let's get on it. Let's get on it.
The Yosemite Sams would have definitely been the best.
I know, yeah.
All the names. That would have been
I want to redo our hat logo conversation and just make the Yosemite Sams.
Especially if Sam grew out his hair and beard.
That is true. If you just focused in on that mustache, you could do. I mean, we could have a Yosemite Sam look for you.
Yeah,
I don't know how
my
well
hair orange.
I don't know how well. Yeah, Palma, Mass lends itself to like the cowboy hat look and the all of.
Hey,
that.
it's Western Massachusetts.
That is true. It is Western Massachusetts. You were once on the frontier of Massachusetts. That is true.
Exactly.
Well, we got a lot coming up for you on next week's episode of the Show Before the Show, including some more alternate identities that are coming out of the minor league landscape and promo calendars that are getting set to roll out. I got a text from a minor league front office employee yesterday that said, I just got to look at our promo schedule. I'm not allowed to talk about any of it, but I want you to know that I'm very excited. So there are minor league front office members who are thrilled across the landscape, and soon you too will be thrilled knowing what's coming up for them. Also, pitchers and catchers reporting to spring training. So we'll have conversation on non-roster invitees among top prospects, as well as the World Baseball Classic. We are inside of a month to go to first pitch of the WBC. Prospects galore across rosters on the WBC, which are now available online. By the time you are hearing this, they were unveiled on February 9th on MLB Network. And yeah, we got a fun show coming up for next week. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, baseball will be back, question mark? Like if you count getting blurry photos of pitchers and catchers reporting and guys walking into locker rooms and kind of throwing the ball around and stretching a little bit. But hey, I'll take it.
Hey man, Shohei Ohtani's been posting stuff on Instagram of himself doing bullpens, and that's enough for me. That's baseball is back in my world. I'm just excited to see that dude out there again for another year. So a lot coming up on next week's episode of the show before the show, which means if it's mid-February and we're already that jam-packed, this is like 7 straight months of jam-packed podcast episodes coming your way. No more slacking off. Nothing else quiet. The season has arrived, kind of.
Yeah, slacking off on a week in which we had 2 interviews.
All right,
about people getting excited for the season. But yes.
Oh man, get in touch with the show, podcast at MILB.com. You can find everybody on Twitter as well. Benjamin Hill's at Ben's Biz, Sam Dykstra's at Sam Dykstra MILB, Josh Jackson MILB, and I am at Tyler Mon. And for all those dudes and for Johnny Bravo and JP Massey, my name is Tyler Mon. We'll catch you next week.